That's good stuff. Howdy there, brew crafters. My name is Mark from brewcrafter.com. Going to do a little taste test here today of a recent recipe that I just brewed. It's a dry Irish stout. It's a coffee stout. I did a little something different with this recipe. I usually build up all my recipes from scratch. The base recipe for this beer came from northernbrewer.com. It was a kit, an all-grain kit. I usually don't brew with kits these days, but I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to try out one of their kits. I did change a couple of little things with the recipe. I added a little bit more base malt, and I added some cold steeped coffee. And I'll show you what I used to do the cold steeping for my coffee. If you want to see how the whole recipe works and get the full details, check out the article on brewcrafter.com. Just search for Brewcrafter coffee stout, and you should find it. So right off the bat, I get some nice roastiness. There's some roasted barley in the recipe. Definitely get the coffee notes. Yeah, right off the bat, smooth. It's got a little bit of bitterness. This recipe only has one hop addition. It's got Magnum for bittering. I think it was 3/4 of an ounce of Magnum at 60 minutes. That's the only hop addition. And most of the bitterness that I get, is really derived from the roastiness of the specialty grains that I used on this. And definitely that coffee. I'm getting the coffee. So it's very smooth. The coffee really comes through sort of in the aftertaste. It's got a nice smooth round mouthfeel. It's a dry stout, so it's not super sweet. Yeah, really no alcohol in the aftertaste. This one fermented out really cleanly. Again, check out the article to see the yeast that I use in the full breakdown. There's a number of specialty grains involved that were part of that Northern Brewer kit. But all in all, it's starting to clear up nicely from the keg. I didn't cold crash this one. Usually I cold crash most of my recipes. This one is clearing up nicely, though. It's been in the keg for about a week and a half. And it is starting to clear up, even though it's such a dark beer, it's probably hard for you to tell. But when I hold it up to the light, I can see some ruby notes coming through. It's almost pitch black, very dark brown, almost pitch black, with some ruby notes coming through when I hold it up to the light. I really enjoy this beer. Again, I can't take full credit because I started off with a base recipe kit from Northern Brewer, but I think my own little tweaks and adding the coffee to it were a good move. Made a good coffee stout. Let me show you what I do for cold steeping. It's kind of my preferred method now for adding coffee to beers. So one second here, let me get this thing that I use. So this is a infusion steeper pitcher thing. I think you call it an infusion pitcher, something like that. And basically it's a pitcher, as you can see, but it's got this guy in it, which, as you can see, it's just kind of a tube, and it's got a really fine mesh, I think it's, I don't know, some kind of metallic mesh, super fine, and I just put my coffee grounds in here. Now, what kind of coffee grounds you use is going to make a big difference on how much you end up extracting, but I think I added about the amount that I would use for a regular pot of coffee, and it was a fairly dark roast. Can't remember the exact brand of the coffee that was in there, but basically you would add your coffee and add as much water. I started off with a quart of water, and you screw it in, and then I just left it at room temperature until I got the color that I was looking for. Took a quick taste test, poured a little bit into a cup, took a quick taste test. Nice and rich and smooth. I think cold steeping adds good coffee flavor without harshness or astringency. So you get a lot of that great flavor and bitterness, but it's not puckering or too acidic. So After that, I added this to the completed beer after it was fully fermented and in the keg. I let it condition for a little while and did a little taste test, decided I wanted a little more coffee. So I did a smaller batch of the cold brew coffee, added that a day or so later, let it finish carbonating, and that's where we're at today. Tastes really good. So I think this is a really successful coffee stout. If you want to check out the full recipe, just like I said, Google search Brew Crafter with a U coffee stout, and you should find the recipe there in the first, hopefully you'll find the recipe in the first Google result. And I recommend trying it out yourself. Even if you don't brew that exact recipe, definitely try cold steeping your coffee if you're making a coffee stout. If you want to learn more about home brewing, equipment reviews, recipes, articles, I've got some handy calculators on the website. Just go to brewcrafter.com. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. Cheers.